During my last speech, I discussed the unsettling issue of water pollution, which hits home here in Nebraska for many reasons. While we may not hear much about water pollution, the pollution we do hear about mostly refers to rivers and oceans. However, pollution of another natural water resource needs to be addressed with the same importance and the same intensity: the pollution of fresh groundwater in the Ogallala Aquifer. The most recent threat to the aquifer, in many opinions, is the creation and running route of the Keystone XL Oil Pipeline, which will run from oil fields in Canada down to the refineries in Texas. This pipeline causes a direct effect of pollution on the aquifer, and while TransCanada has agreed to reroute the pipeline to skip the Sandhill region, it still crosses over the aquifer. This threat could cause a domino effect that would cause issues farming, irrigating, and possibly, most importantly, damage to fresh drinking water that it produces. For those who don't know what the Ogallala Aquifer is, it is a spongy, porous, underground chamber that holds water in and around it. Some aquifers are made of rock and sediment, but the Ogallala Aquifer is primarily made of sand and sediment that washed down thousands of years ago. It produces 30% of the groundwater that we use for irrigation, as well as drinking water for 2.3 million people. The Ogallala Aquifer spans across 8 states: South Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico. While most aquifers are replenished by rainwater or melting snow that seep into the chambers, most researchers believe that the majority of the Ogallala's water is from hundreds or thousands, maybe even millions of years ago. It receives little water from rain or melting snow. It is also believed to be around 1,200 feet deep at its lowest points and only a few feet or less below the ground in others. In fact, according to Scientific American website, if spread across the U.S., the aquifer would cover all 50 states with nearly 2 feet of water. And if it were drained, it would take nearly 6,000 years to refill naturally. The Ogallala Aquifer is of great importance to Nebraska and to other states as well. More than 90% of its water is used for irrigating our crops, and $20 billion a year in food and fiber is dependent upon the same water. Due to its vast importance, talk of the Keystone XL Pipeline has caused a controversy that has lasted nearly 7 years. The pipeline, which according to an article posted in the New York Times in 2011, would carry oil extracted from Canadian tar sand straight across to the Ogallala Aquifer. TransCanada, who would be in charge of building the pipeline, said the pipe would be laid at least nearly 4 feet underground, according to the Washington Post in 2012. However, if they did this, laying it 4 feet underground would be laying it on top of the water. In that same article from the Washington Post, it was stated that the pipeline's 50-year lifespan would be 91 leaks that could potentially put 6.5 million gallons of tar oil into the aquifer. After hearing the statistics and its possible effects, President Obama rejected the pipeline route, and TransCanada reversed their plan, bypassing the sandhills where the largest portion of the aquifer sits. However, the new route would still pass over parts of the Ogallala Aquifer. Not only is the pipeline a threat to the aquifer, it is a threat to the delicate sandhill region in Nebraska. It is an important nesting ground for our sandhill cranes. Due to the threat of the pipeline poses to both of these environmental structures in Nebraska, rerouting of the pipeline is of a huge importance. The talk and discussions of rerouting the pipeline caused quite a stir to Nebraska and for the state of Washington, being a country that needs its oil. Many believed it was more important that the pipeline take its initially planned route. However, according to the Washington Post article, research done by the University of Nebraska professors on water tables of the aquifer they state the high risk the pipeline poses. Contrary to the studies and reports, there are some activists that believe the pipeline poses little threat, even in the event of an oil spill. Siting a spill into the Platte River would be more damaging. Either way, rerouting the pipeline would obviously cost millions. And that in of itself is a huge issue for taxpayers, politicians, and TransCanada. However, in 2011, Nebraska Governor Dave Heineman signed a bill to enforce the reroute of the pipeline around the Sandhill region of Nebraska. While the bill was a huge win for Nebraska and for our environment, the setback and reroute of the pipeline cost TransCanada roughly $7 billion, according to a Reuters article by Michael Abbott. In conclusion, we know the issues we face in regards to water pollution, but many people don't know the pollution we face when it comes to the Ogallala Aquifer, and it's just as, if not more serious. Nebraska's waterway pollution is a serious concern for us here at home. But we also need to be aware that our state contains a vast majority of the Ogallala Aquifer, and we need to understand why it needs to be preserved. While TransCanada has agreed to initially reroute the pipeline to skip the Sandhill region and the ecosystem in Nebraska, it will still cross over the aquifer. If we can agree to skip one delicate region, we should be able to work together to change the route to preserve an aquifer that provides fresh drinking water for over 2 million people in the United States. If we can't do this, any potential oil spills or leaks, which will happen, could damage fresh water that the aquifer contains. This would create a major environmental issue that would affect not only the drinking water produced, but also the water used to support the agricultural backbone of the country.